Today we're talking about the ego. If this interests you, stick around and let's get into it. Hi, I'm Veronica and welcome back to the Wholeness Shift. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you're already part of the family, welcome back. You know I love you. I teach people about easy, practical spirituality, and I help you navigate your spiritual awakening. I try to explain spiritual concepts in a way that's easy to understand. So if this interests you, hit the subscribe button below. Come on this journey with us. I wouldn't want you to miss out on anything good. And you guys, the annual coaching sale is going on right now, where all coaching services are $99. And last year's spots filled up quick. So I don't think the word's really gotten out yet, so there is still plenty of availability right now. But last year they filled up really quick once the word got out. So just be mindful. If you're looking to get coaching services or if you've thought about booking a session with me, now would be the time to do it. Ego. Man, what a tricky little thing the ego is. First of all, let's acknowledge that the ego isn't all bad. The ego is a very necessary thing. I mean, if it weren't for the ego, you wouldn't feed yourself or try to get a good job or accomplish anything in life. You wouldn't have any purpose. I mean, the ego is a necessary part of the human makeup. The problem is that most of us tend to live in a space where our ego is not serving us for our highest and best good. It's really just running rampant. It's running amok. It's making a mess of things. So what is the ego? Let's start there. Basically, it's the part of your personality that will do anything to keep you safe. It will do anything to satisfy your needs, but in a way that will keep you safe. Another part of your personality is called the id, and the id's job is to make sure those needs and wants get met, period. If you're starving, the id will go steal you some food. It doesn't care about the consequences. It's like must get needs met. Your ego's job is to help accomplish those things, get those needs met, but in a way that won't get you horrible consequences. It wants to keep you safe. Your ego's going to step in and go, we don't want to go to jail. Or we're too pretty to go to jail. We ain't stealing that. We're going to find another way. So the ego's job is to get those needs met in an acceptable way that won't get you jailed, killed, or embarrassed. See, that's the good part about ego. That's a good thing. But sometimes in the pursuit of keeping you safe, the ego's means can be very counterproductive. Your ego likes to both build you up and tear you down. Either one of those things. Whatever it takes, it's just a means to an end. Keep you safe. So if you're thinking like taking a chance that you never did, like I think I'm going to finally do it. I'm going to do it. And your ego's like, don't do that. You don't know what you're doing. You're going to fail. People are going to laugh at you. Cut it out. Can't believe you're thinking about taking a dumb chance like that. Who are you to take a dumb chance like that? Nobody's going to like you, or you're going to completely fail. You're too dumb to do that, or you're too fat to do that, or you're too ugly to do that, or you know what I'm saying? Ego will be like, you suck. Or if somebody's being rude to you or something, they're like, do they know who you are? You're too good for them, or let's get out of here. You're better than them. You know, it will build you up, and then as soon as you start getting on a high horse, it'll be like, get off your high horse. You suck. It doesn't like you stepping out of your comfort zone, but it doesn't want you too complacent either. So once you start looking for the ego, it's really easy to spot. The ego is mainly associated with the lower three chakras, the root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus chakra, because those are very physical, humanistic, 3D chakras. They're mostly associated with traumas and horrible experiences that you've had with the past and the baggage that you carry because of those consequences. Very human, physical 3D chakras. And so unless you do the work, the spiritual work, the meditation and everything else to get those higher chakras opened, you're going to pretty much live your life in those lower 3 chakras. And that means you're going to keep repeating all of the same patterns and experiences that you've had with those lower 3 chakras so far. You're going to be really ego-based, and you're going to just keep repeating things over and over and over, because that's all you and your ego have access to. When you live in those lower 3 chakras and you are driven by the ego, you're susceptible to addictions, unhealthy patterns, traumatic or toxic patterns, because you aren't in control of your world. Your world and the ego are in control of you. And once you start moving up into those higher chakras, then that tends to reverse. One area where we all need to be careful of is where I call the spiritual ego. We're all guilty of this to a certain degree because we're humans, but we just have to be careful of it. Some people might say that me even talking about this or teaching about it or pointing it out is ego, and probably so, but it's not my intention to be egotistical. I'm just trying to teach you about it. So spiritual ego, or what I call spiritual ego, is where basically you just get so high and mighty on your little spiritual high horse that you start judging other people. You judge someone if they have a different belief system than you. You might look down on people or like silently judge them because they're not as spiritual as you, or they're not as woke as you. And we just have to be very careful about that. I've noticed that this tends to run rampant in the spiritual community. And there's a really bad habit that spiritual people have of judging one another. They judge each other, they bully each other. I have seen blatant bullying in my comments and other places for this reason, and I think it's horrible. I've seen people call each other frauds. There have been people in my comments calling me a fraud because they don't think I'm woke enough because I suggested quarantining and social distancing during the pandemic. You're such a fraud. What kind of a spiritual teacher would teach people to social distance and quarantine? If you were really spiritually awake, you would know that this is all just a conspiracy, and like the pandemic isn't even real, and how dare you, you're such a fraud. And I'm like, ugh. So then I get into my spiritual ego because then I'm judging them and they're judging me. It's a mess. So anyways, yeah, I've seen this. It's like the further right you go, the like alt-right, ultra conservative Christian realm, and the very, very far leaning spiritual community, it's like they almost kind of circle around and meet each other because they have so many of the exact same qualities. All of the toxic things that I saw in the church that I didn't like, I also see in the very far spiritual community. The problem when you get into those spaces is that there's no compassion left. There's no space for grace. There's no room left over for compassion and grace to be given to your fellow humans if they have any kind of a different belief system than you. And when you think that everyone should have the exact same experience with the exact same lens, the exact same filters, just very cookie cutter beliefs and experiences that you do, or what you think is the proper, appropriate way, that's a problem. And if you think anything other than that must be fake or something like that, it's a problem. So be careful. We have to make space for each other. Everybody comes in with their own histories of other lifetimes and experiences and traumas and knowledge bases and just all of these things that make us the individuals that we are. We each come with our own certain mysticism. We all come with our own experience, our own flavor, our own set of knowledge and downloads and whatnot. And a lot of times those will look very similar, and sometimes they won't. And that's okay. Another way that I see this showing up is I see a lot of, I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch a lot of other people on YouTube, and there are a couple in particular, but I see it across the board. Like, all of these spiritual teachers are so afraid of anybody copying their material. I'm in my spiritual ego right now because I judge them for that. Irritates me so bad. Now, nobody's ever said that to me. Nobody's ever accused me of that, but I see a lot of people doing that just as a blanket statement on their channels, or saying it about other teachers or other people. They'll be like, their content looks awfully familiar. I think they stole it from me. Or, don't go watch that person because all they're doing is regurgitating stolen content. All they're doing is regurgitating other people's downloads, other people that are actually spiritual and doing the work. And I'm just like, ugh, like, I unfollow so many people because it drives me nuts. Now, I'm certainly not advocating plagiarism. That's not what I'm saying. But if you think that we live in this universe where, even though everybody has their own experiences, their own downloads, they're all individuals. If you think that we're not all operating under certain specific universal truths and universal laws, and we all have the same principles of spirituality and of beingness at large, like, if you think you're the only person who's ever thought of a chakra, if you're the only person who's ever taught about meditating, if you're the only person who's ever taught about karma, you're crazy. Like, we all have a common thread. Even despite the individuality, should still be a common thread of truth and similarity woven through these things, right? And to think that there's never going to be a concept or a truth repeated. Anyways. I mean, first of all, these are spiritual truths. They're all of ours. You can't gatekeep spiritual truths. You can't gatekeep universal law. You can't gatekeep information that is being provided, because that's the second part of it. If you're claiming it's my download, okay, so you downloaded that information from another source. So really, you're just regurgitating information you got somewhere else. See what I'm saying? Like, there is no original information. It is being provided to humanity to help with this ascension, transcendence process we are going through. This is information that is being gifted and provided to humanity. So don't gatekeep it. If you've ever read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, then you know she talks about the muse as being an actual entity that decides when it's time for certain pieces of work, certain scientific information or knowledge, for information to be downloaded to humanity. Sometimes they will pick a person, an author, an artist, a musician, to like give that work to. And then if that work doesn't get produced in a timely manner, they'll take the information back and they'll give it to another one. And that's sometimes how you can get these copyright lawsuits and stuff going. I wrote that song first, and they'll play a tape from like 1977 that they had a beat that kind of sounded like that, but they never did anything with it. Well, the muse probably took it back and gave it to someone else. That's why it's so similar. I mean, they won't be identical, but they are usually similar. That's also how, like, maybe something was never, ever, ever, ever known. And then all of a sudden, like, scientists all over the world start coming up with the same information at the same time. Well, that's because the powers that be were like, it's time for them to know this. And those little downloads were given to scientists all over the world. And they're all like, hey, look at this, new discovery. So, anyways, I digress. If you haven't read that book, I highly suggest it. It's a great book. The other thing is that after doing this for so long, like speaking for myself personally, after doing this for so long, like I began my spiritual awakening in like 2012, so 10 years now. Over the course of 10 years, it's really hard to pinpoint where you learned something or how you know something. Sometimes you remember specifically, but sometimes it's really hard to know where a certain piece of knowledge or information came from, because after doing this for so long and you experience so many downloads and so many dreams and you have past life memories and you read about this in a book and you saw this YouTube video or you listened to this podcast or you were having a conversation with somebody, maybe you got a reading. It's like all of this stuff just comes, little pieces and morsels and nuggets over the years, over the decades, and it assimilates into you and it becomes a part of you, and it just becomes a part of your knowledge base at large. And you draw on that to teach other people or to talk about it. You know, sometimes I come across other people's videos that sound very, 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 very similar to something I have taught. And my first thought is, cool, I wonder if they saw my video and they learned from me, or I wonder if they were just downloading the same information I was. Either way, how cool. Because the goal is to help the world. We want to change the world. We want to help people to navigate this. So the more the merrier, in my opinion. We as a collective of human beings need to be more careful with our egos in that way. So how do we stay in a space where we try to let our egos serve us for our highest and best intention? First and foremost, you have to learn to recognize the voice of your ego, like I talked about earlier, and be able to like recognize it and point it out as soon as you hear it. Call the lies out for what they are. And I actually do that. Like if I'm hearing my ego tell me something horrible, like if I go in to have a snack or to do something, they'll be like, you shouldn't eat that. You've gained so much weight. You need to like put that down. Girl, what are you doing? And I'll be like, I reject that for the lie that it is. Get out of here. You know, if it's trying to say you're less worthy because of this or that, I reject that for the lie that it is. Be gone. Being aware of something, calling a spade, like you got to call a thing before you can change it. But being aware of something is usually the first step to keeping it in line or keeping it at bay. For a long time, part of my morning prayer was always, please let my ego serve me for my highest and best intention today. Help me to stay out of your way, Lord, and help my ego to stay out of both of our ways. So what are your thoughts on ego? Leave me a comment below and let's have a discussion about this. What are your thoughts on this? I'd love to hear them. And if you haven't yet, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps me out a lot on this channel, and I wouldn't want you to miss out on any good stuff that's coming. And if you need to schedule your coaching session, do that, and be on the lookout for me to be launching a membership site. I'm planning to launch it probably for November, so it's coming soon. And be on the lookout for that if you're interested. Keep your vibes high and let love guide you. Until next time.